Oh, I cannot wait to get out of here. Trying to finish things up so I can like have a clear desk and people are stopping in. I can't hear you if you're talking. If you're not, that's fine. You don't have to.
No, I
Hey,
was
Jen.
muted.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I have a pile of homework I've got to get graded tomorrow.
Oh, graduation should be coming up, right?
2 weeks.
Nice.
But I've got the conference app downloaded into my phone. I have got.
Oh, I need to do that. And I need to do the survey. Oh, you're not doing the strangulate. We
No,
signed
I'm
up.
not doing any of the pre-conference.
Yeah, we're doing the pre-conference, the strangulation, and the Gabby's Petito's family parents are going to be there.
I know.
I'm excited. If you can't tell. Hey, Doug.
I've tried to go through all of the breakout sessions so I can maximize what I'm getting.
Tonight and tomorrow. I told Hunter, I'm like, you really need to do that so that you don't feel so overwhelmed when you first get there. Things might change, but at least you have a little bit of a grasp.
Yeah. Is she excited?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Also trying to clear our work queues so we might have somebody from the public today. I know.
Wow.
My CAC director, the executive director, she was up here and I told her that I was getting prepared for our meeting and she's like, what's that meeting? And I'm like, told her, she's like, well, am I allowed to come? I'm like, yeah, it's public. If you want to come join, I'll
Please
send you
do.
the link. I don't know if she will or not, but I sent her the link, so she might pop on.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
It looks like we're also going to have a couple of other Vermont folks in Dallas. Do you know Trooper Mengbai Wong? She's down in Westminster. So
a couple years ago?
Yeah, she was in class.
Yeah.
Like maybe the 113-ish.
Yep. Yes.
And
she's in Westminster, you said?
What's that?
Did you say she's in Westminster?
Yeah, she's in Westminster.
Yep.
And Daniel Hall, he's a detective sergeant out of Westminster. He's signed up too.
Excellent.
Yeah. I tried to get Ashley Happy interested in coming because she's, the E911 call taker, trainer, coordinator. And I was like, there is so much dispatch stuff this time. Like, we need to send them.
Yep. Yeah. We forget about them all too often when we're doing trainings.
I know.
I try not to, but it just sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Hi, Carolyn.
I tried to respond, but I realized I was muted. How are you?
Doing good so far.
Good. What a nice day outside, at least where I am. Is it nice where you guys are?
Getting cloudy down here.
It looks nice. I don't know. Haven't been outside, unfortunately.
Well, it's very warm in Burlington. It's really nice out. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's like hot, actually hot.
Yesterday was gorgeous here. Oh, I think it was like 70, 75, and it was beautiful. Again, didn't get to enjoy it till later in the day, but at least I got to enjoy it a little bit. So I just mainly need the sun.
Yeah. I went to my daughter's lacrosse game yesterday at 4:30 and it was just fantastic to sit outside and watch sports and, be in the sun. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Hi, Mara. Hi, Kim. Well,
Jen, while we're waiting for everybody else, there was something I wanted to tell you. Remember a long time ago, we talked about adding a sheriff to the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission?
yes.
We finally did it. I mean, we're still waiting for the governor to sign the bill, but it made it through the legislature. And so keep that in the back of your mind. Like, I mean, you guys have to decide who you want to appoint, but
No,
I
that'll
kind of
be
hope it'll be you
open.
if you're interested.
Yeah. Yes. That's exciting.
Yeah, I was very happy about it. It's going to allow us, nobody's looked at that statute since 2009, and it was really your call about, you know, the possibility of having a sheriff on there that really spurred the commission to think about it. So we asked to add you and, well, a sheriff and a couple of other people that are, you know, didn't exist in 2009, basically. And with all the added responsibilities that sheriffs have and enforcing domestic violence and all the great work that you're doing, it would be really just lovely to have more representation. We didn't want the local person to be replaced and not have both voices there, but you know, having a countywide position, sheriff's position, I think is going to be really a great benefit to the commission.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you. Well, thank you for bringing it up to them too. I'm super excited. Okay, that's good. That reminded me to shut this off. Did anybody Loretta's having a hard time with the link. Did you guys, well, clearly you guys didn't have a hard time if you're on here. Oh, we have 2 pages. Am I missing some? Hi, Lisa. Hi, Sarah.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, Savannah.
I just sent Loretta an invitation again. Well, the
There
good
she
news is
is.
we've definitely got quorum.
Do you see somebody? Oh, hi, Loretta.
Thank you. I was looking for the agenda. I couldn't locate
Oh,
it.
Lynn says she's waiting for somebody to let her in, Jen.
I
Are you
don't
waiting?
have anybody. I don't show anybody waiting to enter.
Oh,
You can, you know, it'd probably be easier and if we invite her directly from the meeting.
okay.
Do you know how to do that?
No.
If you click on people at the top of your window, and then
People,
you'll get a little participants window, and then there'll be an invite someone thing at the top, and you just type in her email address and click
Invite.
share invite.
Oh, that was easy. Hopefully I remember that.
Well, we've had an exciting morning here at the Academy with all of the scenarios going on, but a bunch of us staff got together and we started the initial planning for us appearing or participating in Pride in Rutland this spring, or this summer rather. So we're pretty excited.
That's great.
Be good. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
We named it Operation Elton John.
Operation what?
Elton John.
I said that, but I wasn't sure.
I'm sure he would be honored.
Oh. So Jen, my recruit and Mara, since you guys were, and Loretta, my recruit came back this past weekend and said that, and gave us a very nice compliment that the class really enjoyed our 3 days with them, and that they learned a lot and thought we were very engaging. So I think that's the first time it's ever happened. It's a good thing I wasn't in person with them, because I was like, this is why I still do my job. So it made me feel good. So
they're kind of an okay bunch.
Yeah. Ann Borsari's mother texted me and was like, Sam said your class was really good and you gave me a compliment and thank you so much. So like, there's gotta be some truth to it. So yeah. All right. Well, I think we had my executive director from my CAC who wanted to join, but I think she's having, oh, for crying out loud. I did the share invite, copy link, meeting link, Jen, or just share it via default email?
I just do it by email. Tell them, what's your email address?
It's, hold on. Oh, it's, holy crying out loud. It's Lynn Renee, RENEE, all one word, .brochu, BROCHU, @partner.vermont. I don't know if it's .gov or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, hopefully that went.
Right.
Oh yeah, here she is.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Jen. Okay.
Or I'm calling her, one or the other. And then I also just sent, going to go ahead and also, Heather is having a hard time, so I'm working with her right now. But we do have quorum, so if you want to get started.
Yep, I'll call the meeting to order at 1:10. Thank you all for coming. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, so we do have somebody from the public, which I don't know if that's ever happened before. So I just want, Lynn is here. She's my executive director for our local Orleans County Child Advocacy Center, and she was just interested to see what this meeting was all about, and I kind of told her, so I guess you're interested in knowing what we do more, huh, Lynn? So if I don't know if you want to say anything else, but we can go around the screen and introduce ourselves. I'm sure there's some people you know, but probably a lot you don't.
Oh, before we do that, just letting you guys know that the meeting is being recorded.
Thank you, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn, did you want to say anything, or?
Sure.
Was that-
Lynn Brochu, Executive Director of the Orleans County Child Advocacy Center. Huge exposure to DV in my crisis work for the last 15 years of my life. And so just coming back to the community, and happened to go to Jen's office today, and she was talking about this meeting, and DV plays a huge role in the work that I do, but I also team with law enforcement. And I have to keep track of their trainings also. So it's just nice to know what's out there, so that I can also promote whatever's on board and support my team moving forward.
Okay, well, we'll go around the screen. Heather, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I was late. I'm Heather Holter. I co-direct the Vermont Council on Domestic Violence, and I'm happy to be here. I don't have other folks gone.
No,
or
not
should
yet,
I?
Heather.
Amazing.
Around the screen.
All right. How about you, Doug?
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Norton. I'm the state police representative to the committee.
I'm looking at Sarah, then I'll go up to the other screen.
Sarah Robinson, co-executive director of the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. Thank you.
Kim?
Hi there, my name is Kim McManus. I am the legislative and policy attorney for the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs. And I apologize, I'm gonna try to turn my mood around in the next like 3 to 5 minutes, but I got the like pick me up from school phone call in the middle of the day, and then I got rebuked for taking too long, so I'm a little like fired up on every front right now. So if I'm a little quieter today, it's just because I'm a tiny bit cranky.
Well, thanks for sharing. Kim. Sorry about that. Savannah? Did we lose Savannah?
No, her computer's fighting
Yes.
with her.
No, I'm back.
Okay.
My computer's going through a glitch. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Savannah Williams, Operations Director for Umbrella North. And Len and I are actually office neighbors, which is pretty exciting because the CAC just moved next to Umbrella here in Newport. We're excited about that partnership. Good to see you all.
Lisa?
Hi, Lynn Renee. Lisa Ryan, she, her pronouns. I am the Community Inclusion Director for the Vermont Criminal Justice Council. I work here at the Vermont Police Academy. Nice to meet you, and thanks for being here.
Mara?
My name is Mara Iverson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the fair and impartial policing instructor here at the Academy.
Carolyn?
Hi, Lynn. I'm Carolyn Hansen, she, her pronouns. I work for the Attorney General's office and I also chair our Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission. It's nice to have you here. And Kim, don't let those haters get you down. You're a great mom. I don't care what they say. Don't let them bum you out.
And Jen, I think did I miss anybody else?
Just me.
Loretta, yeah.
Great chief, great.
Loretta Stallnaker, Chief of Police for Rowellton Police Department. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. And did we get Jody?
Nope. Holy Christ, my screens, there's too many people on this. Jody, go ahead.
I'm Jody. I am a victims compensation claims specialist with the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services.
Thank you.
And,
Okay.
and I'm the other Jen. I'm Jen Furpo. I'm the domestic violence response instructor here at the Academy. Also she, her pronouns.
Well, thank you, everybody. Okay, so did everybody have a moment to look over the minutes for April 10th? Okay, I would entertain a motion to accept those unless there's any changes or anybody saw anything that needed to be addressed.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Loretta. Second. I'm sorry, who was that?
Sarah.
Sarah, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Jen, is there any update on the strangulation investigative tool? Have we heard anything yet?
No, I have to hassle him some more
Okay.
and see where he is with that. Things got a little wild here for the last couple of weeks, so it kind of fell off my radar.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get down into the nitty gritty, because I think this is probably going to take us the rest of our time to figure out. So we'd really like to make a decision for the topic we are going to try to hone in on for the 2026 training. So I sent out, thank you, Sarah and Kim, for working on that so I could actually read it intelligently somewhat. We got the law enforcement survey, which unfortunately was not a lot. But I mean, unless I was reading it wrong, what I saw out of it was there was a consistent, at least like what are the top, when Sarah put out those questions about like what was your top and asked them to put them into your top priorities. I apologize, you guys. I've been working at 2 o'clock in the morning for the past 3 days. So I'm like, on very little sleep, and if I stumble, I'm sorry. I apologize ahead of time. It looks like me like there's a lot of dominant aggressor that was sticking out. I'm hoping other people saw that and I wasn't just seeing things, but that's what I saw from law enforcement, was that was like their top, what was most that people put. I
also noticed there was a lot of coercive control too,
yes,
which is pretty timely, because now that's part of our one of the criteria that you can utilize to get an RFA. So
well, that's why it's coming up, because people
they don't know what to do with it yet.
And now individuals are reporting that people are violating that, and they're the older. I mean, I feel like the recruits in the academy are somewhat getting a lot of this information. Not enough. Well, there's never enough of it, but I feel like we talk a lot about it, but maybe it just is so much information. So, but we definitely talk about it around when we're, talking about the lap, but again, not going into a lot of details about it. But so it's good. I mean, that's good that they're asking for this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that can all be put together.
Yeah.
And I feel if we're going to do that, then we should definitely, there should be, I think there was some like examples or not role playing, but scenarios and things like that would definitely have to be part of this if we're going to be using those. The dominant, predominant stuff, and the course of control, that would be, I think that'll be a good way of.
One other thing that stood out for me is there were several people that talked about wanting to understand more about advocates and connections with advocates. And I don't know, I thought it might be a good opportunity to invite to do a program about what community advocacy looks like and what the different services are that, for instance, the network member programs do. I don't know if they ever get really a chance to hear at length about those, but I thought like we could invite and Sarah and Heather, I actually, this was just an idea I had, so maybe you guys don't think this is a good idea. I don't know. Tell me what you think. But like inviting member programs from like the South, the North, the Central of the state to come in and maybe spend like an extended period of time explaining like what their what they wish they had more of a partnership with law enforcement about, what are the sort of critical issues in their community. Maybe it's like emergency housing that they work on a lot. Maybe it's something else, but giving law enforcement a chance to really connect and hear at some length about the kind of work those programs do. I thought it would be kind of interesting, and that's what I got out of reading the survey. So thought I would throw that out there as a possibility.
Thank you. Sarah, I'm sorry if you had your hand up ahead of time.
No problem at all. So 2 thoughts. One, the kind of predominant aggressor and coercive control for me fit into a umbrella around course of conduct. And, trying to understand domestic violence as a pattern of control and escalating behavior. And I wonder whether, and I think that both predominant aggressor and coercive control are related to that. And I think it is always worth opportunities to dig into that, because understandably, so much of our justice system is focused on an incident-based perspective, when domestic violence is really about this longer-term course of conduct. And so I wonder whether that could be helpful framing to kind of address both of those issues.
Yeah, there was some, I don't know if it was more than one, but there was one response that was, or maybe it was in the other survey, but you know, maybe it was in the other survey where they wanted law enforcement to get all that information, like to get the background information about the relationship and to try to get more of what that conduct looked like. And that's really hard to do when you're in the moment and you're responding to something, a domestic, a call for domestic, depending on what's going on, depending on if it's the first time you've gone there. It's easier for officers if they have that familiarity with the family or the situation for them to better, to have that kind of like that history going into it. But that's where it's really like these detectives or these positions with the state's attorney's offices where after a domestic assault has occurred and hopefully there's been an arrest made, that they meet with the victim and then they have those longer interviews and those more trauma-informed conversations and things where they're getting more of what was actually happening in that relationship. So I saw that, I think it must have been in the other survey a lot, which some of that is really hard to do right in the moment when you're trying to make things safe at that particular time. Does that make sense to everybody? And I know, like when we did the LAP training, we talked about getting those victim survivors in touch with an advocate sooner than later, so that that process can start also with the safety planning and stuff. But so doing more education on the back end so that there maybe could be more easier question. I don't know how to fix that, because sometimes you may have that opportunity and you may have that time to have a further, a more in-depth conversation, but there could be kids around where they have to be removed from the situation. You're trying to arrest the aggressor to get them out of the situation, and then having to deal with that, which could take hours. So, and maybe I'm getting off on a tangent here. I don't.
I just was gonna jump in and say I think that it struck me. I mean, if I'm reading this correctly, I know that the folks on the one survey were ranking, writing reports, preparing affidavits and reports. But I just keep thinking about how Doug has shared before that having officers do the lethality assessment as part of that DV investigative form has really helped the report writing. And I'm just, I wonder if there's, I wonder if there's a connection between those two things, between learning more about assessing risk and like how officers can use the tool or a tool, because I realize it's the Vermont State Police tool, or if I'm correct about that, to to simultaneously learn about more about assessing on the scene, but also creating a product that is useful and clear for state's attorneys and down the process, down the line. So just chiming in with my own random thing, which I think could really be connected to looking at patterns of behavior or course of conduct.
Quick question. What tool, Doug, is currently used for you guys at VSP?
We use a internal investigation form that was developed by our DV committee. I think it's 5 pages, and it's basically all the things that we've missed over the years when we speak to DV victims. And we found that we're able to identify other crimes that have happened and also get historical domestic abuse that generally or didn't come up before, because like when a trooper shows up, our police officer, they're investigating that crime and moving on. By using this form, we've been able to identify past assaults, past sexual assaults, because there's a question regarding being forced to have sex. And then, of course, excuse me, if they acknowledge that, then we go, maybe not at that particular moment, but pass that off to BCI. We do a little more investigating, but, and we've been able to then turn, if you will, just a domestic into sexual assaults, or additional charges for domestics. And we also go a little step further now where, like when I was doing it, you would just write that, you know, you observed redness on somebody's cheek or redness around their throat. And now, like, all the troops have cell phones. So we're including photos in affidavits, which gives the judge a little more perspective versus just reading what somebody's describing, which is sort of open to interpretation. We're actually able to show the judge what's going on right then and there.
Thank you.
Sure.
I was just wondering what documentation looked like.
I'm wondering if, Jen Furpo, you could, I don't know, I feel like I should be able to recite this, but I'm gonna rely on your memory for this.
Oh, Lord.
Well, just thinking about last year, you know, like grounding ourselves a little bit and like, okay, so last year we had several different topics. We wove them together. We did an in-person version, and we did virtual versions. So you know, as we were thinking about what our topic's going to be, can you just refresh my memory, along with obviously having Mark win and doing the updates that we did do you know, the portion I participated in with Shannon McMahon, where we did talk about victim services organizations. I think that was fairly short and sweet, and maybe should be part of every training. I mean, I think it's a really good reminder in some way. Who knows what the most effective way is, but I'll just, you know, throw that. But so those were like kind of our 3 buckets, right? We had the legislative updates that Sarah did. We had yeah,
that's kind of similar to how we've done past years, where we've had, like, at least since 2016, we've always had some kind of legislative update, which I think the officers find super helpful. And there has been typically some piece on advocacy, whether it's a reminder of services, whether it's like last time we talked about safety planning. I am in no way endorsing this particular plan, but in 2012, the training on kids and domestic violence, part of that was that the officers all had to then call their local program and ask a list of questions, which you guys might be cool with doing again. My only complaint with it when I was an advocate was, at least in Rutland, we had no idea it was going to happen. So we were like, what? And the officers who were on at night, they had been everybody had been specifically told, don't call the crisis line to do this, call the office line during office hours. And those little darlings were still calling us the crisis line in the middle of the night and waking advocates up to do their homework, which not the end of the world, but I think if we're going to do something, an exercise similar to that, we probably want to get some input from the programs on how they would best like to interact with officers.
And are we thinking we'll do a virtual? I mean, I know some of this, apologies if this feels out of order to folks, but I'm just thinking about the framework of the training. And I'm sure this will be led, in large part by the topics we choose. But are we imagining that we'll do an in-person version as well as a virtual version like we did last time?
It seemed like from the last meeting, I got the impression that we were more interested in doing an in-person version this year. And of course, with that, especially if we have a lot of instructors from different areas that might be hard for me to wrangle, I will probably want to make at least one recorded version for record keeping, and also for folks who are deployed or on leave for other reasons that then come back and I have to catch them up. We won't mention that sometimes I have to chase some bad kids after the deadline falls through and get them caught up. Chief?
I saw Loretta, their hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna I think that was one of the biggest things that I've got some negative feedback on, was not the train itself, but because it was an in-person that they recorded, like the instructor's back was to the camera, so you couldn't hear very well, so I think if we are gonna do like both, maybe have them do like face camera, record it separately from a class. That'd just be my suggestion. Have them do a.
Thanks to Lisa, we now have a relationship with PEG TV. So we have much more resources to make a better recorded version of training than we did when Mark was here, because that predated Lisa being with us. So we can probably get something fairly sharp.
And I think some of those scenarios like they did in the FIP for domestic violence would be great.
Yeah, we could do something like that, I think. Chime right in, Lisa. I see you unmuted.
Oh, I was gonna say the scenarios actually weren't PEG TV. That was somebody from PEG TV's board that generously donated their time to us.
Okay.
And I don't know if that would happen again without funding. I'll just be really frank and honest about that.
That's really great to know.
I also wanted to say that I think as we're talking about, and I know Director Burkell isn't here, but as we're talking about trainings and delivery, we can think about doing some regional trainings in person, and then again having another opportunity for folks who can't get there. So I think we can be creative about the ways in which we incorporate and deliver the trainings once we kind of hone down what topics we're going to focus on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm also want to bring back around. I mean, I know we talked a little bit about this last time, and I think that I don't know what this training looks like, but I think service of relief from abuse orders is a real challenge around the state right now, and something we're talking about trying to address as well as we can, knowing that many law enforcement agencies are having fewer officers to do this work. But I really appreciated that we talked a little bit about that last time. So I'm not helping to narrow things down. I'm just making sure we remember all the things that were on the list.
No, I think that that's important, Heather. So I think we can do like a little bit of each thing. So like basically going back to a 101 on predominant. I mean, it's been a long time since I've had any training around that area. Well, I mean, I've had training around it, but as far as like specific, just law enforcement on the road training, it's been a long time since I talk about it a lot, but it doesn't mean anything. So maybe just doing like a 101 on predominant and then kind of going through the whole thing about, you know, doing the whole power and control module again and talking about that and talking about also things that have changed in that as well. It's more broad now than I'm sure that a lot of law enforcement officers first received when they first came on the job. And you know, using, well, I don't know if everybody can use the domestic violence form, because if you haven't had the lap training, then I don't know if you're supposed to be using all or asking all the questions that are on that. So I don't know if that's something that we can kind of like adopt as a state. I know that most states attorneys want that because it's getting, like Doug was saying, it's getting a lot of the information, but I don't know if all agencies are using it. So that would be one thing, is to be consistent with that. And that's moving forward with that. Again, because we're not sure. I mean, there's no time frame on how long the training is anymore, right? It's just a matter of how we're delivering it. So.
I mean, I definitely, oh, sorry, go ahead, Carolyn.
I was just going to say that I like the idea of picking a topic and deciding what the learning objectives are for that topic a lot better than kind of dabbling around. I find that trainings that focus on one thing and are clearly delivering, you know, content around that is more effective. And I definitely want to echo Loretta's point. I think having, you know, it doesn't matter. It could be in person, it could be virtual, but I think when you do a virtual training, we need to make sure that the information is framed differently, since we're delivering it to that audience, like this, whatever kind of slides they're using, all of that. I think those are the two suggestions I would have, that we think about if we're going to create a virtual, that we don't just record the in-person again. And also that we think about, like, what do we want people to get out of it? So for example, with Heather's suggestion about protection orders, I mean, I could see all of these topics being a training, but what specifically do we want officers to know about serving protection orders that they might not know now? Because if we don't start at the beginning with something clear to people about what they're going to learn, they're just going to sit through this and not pay attention. They're going to think they know it, and we're going to lose them at the beginning. So I also think the dominant aggressors could definitely work, but like, we need to understand the key points that we think need to be delivered in that training, and we need to talk about who's going to do it, because those kind of trainings, I've also seen them done badly. And if it's done badly, people get frustrated. They don't want to sit through the training, and they sometimes take things away from it that we don't want them to take away from it. And I especially think that's a caution with course of conduct and dominant aggressor. Those are complicated topics, and they need to be, there's a lot of legwork that we go into putting together a really good training around those. So I guess I'm just thinking about, like, and maybe Jen, you guys can lay out for us exactly what our timeline looks like how much time and how we think this, you know, if we're going to do one of these topics, how we would go about determining who's going to deliver that content. All of those things are floating around in my head and making me a little bit nervous about what the ultimate product will look like.
I guess what we're really going to need to do to answer a lot of these questions is we're just going to have to buckle down and decide on a topic, because I can't tell you who's going to be the person who's going to deliver it till I know what the topic is. and that also will inform how we're doing it. So I think we need to pick a topic, pick the learning objectives, and then we figure out who and how to deliver it most effectively. So our deadline is we really need to have this pretty well done by the December council meeting so they can take a look at it and bless it and all that good stuff.
Does the IACP have a good training on dominant aggressor that we might be able to use and then incorporate some Vermonty stuff into it?
I mean, probably, yeah. I'd have to go and do some digging and research. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't expect you to know. I was just sort of asking aloud, but I feel like if we narrowed it down to, we could try to narrow it down to one thing today, and then the steps we're going to take to try to figure out what that content would look like, or we could narrow it down to two things, for instance, and then take a look at how it would be delivered, what the learning objectives would be, and then vote as a committee, like which we think is more pressing, perhaps, or would be deliverable in the timeline that we have by December. You know, there's so many factors. It's really hard to make I think, an informed decision without having a few of these questions answered around each of the topics that we're considering.
Well, like you just said, Caroline, I think if we're going to do the predominant aggressor, they have to have a good understanding of what that relationship looks like. So all the dynamics and all the coercion and all that stuff that can happen and what's happening when we're not looking and we're not there. So that they know when they're looking and they're seeing, and then we're going to have to talk about defensive. What are defensive wounds? What does that look like? You know, how do we tell the difference between them? So, I mean, clearly we did not get a very large response from law enforcement. So, but what we do have is what I'm seeing is that topic. Doug, are you seeing anything with your troops or around the state of having, I mean, I haven't heard it lately, and I haven't asked any state's attorneys, maybe Kim, but is, you know, of victims being arrested instead of the predominant aggressor, or what? I haven't heard of anything problems recently, but
It's
go ahead. Sorry, Doug, go ahead.
No, it's pretty rare. We've not, there's an occasional victim, if you will, that gets arrested, but primarily our troops do a pretty good job of being able to parse out who's the aggressor. Of course, you always have she attacked me, so I pushed her away, or he attacked me, so I pushed him away kind of scenarios. But again, I think from the academy, our troops come out, or the officers come out, but I can't really speak to them, with a fairly good understanding of how to investigate these. And then, of course, just OJT the rest of the way. And most domestics, there's always two troopers there anyways. So if one misses something, generally the other one's there. And that's not to say we end up with perfect investigations, but more times than not, I think we're relatively successful. In Rutland, we actually had one recently where, again, based on our investigation report, BCI ended up stepping in, and he's now, the detective did a great job tracking down past victims, and he's been charged with ag domestic sexual assault, 2 counts, I think 4 domestic assaults for 3 past partners. So I think everybody has, or hopefully, a pretty good understanding of what we're doing and what we're looking for.
I so much wanted to bake a cake for whoever arrested him.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'm sorry.
He's been at this for a long time, and it is so delightful that he is currently sitting in Marble Valley. Makes my little black heart go.
And I suspect he will be there for some time, both pre and post conviction, plea deal, whatever the case may be. Sorry. Sarah.
Could I, just in service of kind of moving us forward, I'm wondering, two things, because am hearing everything that Carolyn said that I thought was just very wise about ensuring that our topic is really clearly connected to learning objectives and making sure that it's appropriately framed and we have high quality presenters so that we're not actually doing harm unintentionally. And I'm wondering, so I would love to just propose a motion that I am very open to modification of if others have modification, but I'm wondering about the proposing that the training topic would be course of conduct inclusive of predominant aggressor and coercive control for our training this year. And if there are any modifications or suggestions to that motion, I would welcome them.
I wonder if we should pick one of those two, because I worry about mixing coercive control, which is about situations where violence is not necessarily being used, physical violence, and dominant aggressor, which is all about the physical violence part. I think that those two topics would be better delivered separately, but I think both of them would be really, really good.
I would argue that coercive control is very much part of dominant aggressor determination, because it's the dominant aggressor is not just the one who's the most violent, but also the one who's exerting the control in the relationship.
If I could just jump in for a sec. I actually did the bill review on this and on the coercive controlling part. And in speaking with the defense attorneys who I reached out to, and they actually had made a really good point, which we probably need to address, is that's kind of open to interpretation by the victim and by law enforcement, quite frankly, too. Because what is coercive to one person certainly could be benign to somebody else. So I don't know how we drill down or how you define. I mean, there's some simplicity to defining coerciveness, but like I don't know that I think it's wide ranging. And for some people, it could be totally different than others. That in one instance, somebody just keeps a debit card all the time, and you have to ask for the debit card. So is it coercive for that person, or is it that there's an assumption too much money is spent, so we're trying to control our budget, right? I think it could be either or. So if we're doing the coercive part, I think we need to have a really good understanding of how we're defining that and what's the message we're sending out.
Well, I think we can go with the motion that Sarah put on the table, and then we can do some more investigative work as far as if there's what's out there for training already and what topics are already in those, and see if we can move from there. And in between now and our next meeting, if we learn anything about what some of those trainings are, I can send those out to the group, and so we have time to review them before our next meeting, and then we can maybe hone down on a little bit more stuff. But I agree with you, Doug, it needs to be very precise because it is a lot of interpretation, which will. Yeah.
Can I also make a plug that we include a statutory update, because I know that law enforcement should be keeping up on this stuff on their own, but realistically, I think this is probably the only way that some of them are getting these updates.
No, and I think that that was mentioned that should be maybe just be something that's automatically done, and it does not take very long either. So I feel like that is appropriate to continue with that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely second the motion and the idea that we with those kind of three topics together really do a little exploration about who who's out there to deliver this training and what kind of training approach folks who we have a good reputation might take, because I mean, I think what I think officers are saying when they request training about predominant aggressor is for more information about who to arrest and who to charge and how to make that determination. And I think that that can be so complex based on not only whatever may have occurred, the two parties may or may not be describing as what occurred, but also, is there already family court involvement? Is there, a history, and is there, of course, coercive control that we don't know about? So, I mean, I think that I would just sort of add that, I mean, my impression of what I'm hearing in those the ranking that folks did is this, that it's understandably really challenging, I imagine, sometimes to figure out what is, what's the history and what's been happening in a relationship when a couple of officers arrive on a scene. And so and obviously the decision that they make can have intended and unintended consequences. It's a really huge decision to be making. So just going to I would love to know to investigate so to speak about what is the really great training resources out there, or presenters who might be able to get to that, the heart of that, which I think involves a few of those things. That's my 2 cents.
Can I just ask a little more clarification about what the motion's about? Because I agree with everything you said, Heather. Like, part of determining dominant aggressor is understanding the course of conduct. To me, that's the training is around dominant aggressor and looking at course of conduct, basically the history of the relationship, can help you make that determination. That's one type of thing. The other thing I hear people talking about is coercion and control, and that being a basis for a relief from abuse order, which is not going to be a criminal violation necessarily. That may lead to stalking or something else. And that's, to me, a separate training topic. And so I feel like if we want to focus on dominant aggressor, then we could include course of conduct. And I feel like we could ask somebody from the IACP, do they have some training around this that includes part of the determination is looking at the history of the relationship and the course of conduct in that relationship. I think that's always part of training with dominant aggressor. So I guess I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification in which direction we're going, because I think we could do either. I think officers would be really interested in this idea of coercive control as being a basis for a relief from abuse order, which might not rise to the level of a criminal case, maybe would be with stalking. But to me, those are two separate types of trainings.
I hear that, Carolyn, and I'm very open to that modification if we want to say predominant course of conduct that includes focus on predominant aggressor.
Okay, that makes more sense to me. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
So are you seconding that, Carolyn, or?
Oh, I think Heather already did.
Well, Sarah
Yes.
just
Modified.
modified,
Right.
modified it.
I tried to put it in the chat. Let me know if I got that correct, if that's correct, Sarah and Carolyn.
Yes, that is. Yep.
Okay, so all of those in favor of moving forward at this time with that, say aye or raise your hand, please. Okay. So Jen, are you comfortable, you and I, looking into researching this and bringing some stuff back to the group? As we get it, we can send it out. That we're able to do that?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'll get right on IACP.
When is
Okay.
our next meeting, Jen? Any Jen?
June
All the
12th.
gems.
Oh, Lisa has her hand up. I see.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a question. Maybe it would be important and resourceful to think about like what relationships you all have with folks that might be able to do this training. Like I'm just thinking of folks internal to Vermont that we have relationships with, highlighting the fact that Jennifer put in the chat, funding is an issue. So I don't want folks to be, thinking national when I'm not sure we can do that right now. I just wanted to add that. I don't know if there's law enforcement out there. I don't know if there's other attorneys or, folks in Vermont that might be able to at least do pieces of this training, I guess is what I'm saying.
I'm sure we can find people to do it within the state. It's just a matter of just honing down on what we exactly want to get through and then seeing if who's available to do that. So. Okay.
Kim, sorry. I was just going to say, Kim, do you think it would be wise to check in with our state's attorneys and see if any of them would be interested in helping to present on this topic? Because, I mean, prosecutors make that same decision all the time when they're moving forward with the case. I don't know if any of them would have anything they would want to, just a thought of anything that they would want to make sure the police understand about determining that.
Yeah, I imagine there would be interest, and that it would be a nice, depending on how this is set up, like a nice balance. But I think going back to an earlier comment, like now that there's the topic, the next step is parsing out those learning objectives. So I would want to be very clear on what we were asking, to the larger point of like not miscommunicating the wrong thing, making sure we're really clear about what learning objective within this topic we're trying to get at. And then absolutely, I think there'd be a number of individuals who'd be very excited to get in and share and discuss.
While we're thinking about presenters, we should also, well, let me ask this. Are you all thinking about the same presenters going and offering each of these trainings regionally? Or are we thinking of folks developing this training and then us doing a train the trainer so that agencies can send their own people? Because that's two really different things.
I personally vote for regional. I don't know how many we'd think we'd need. I mean, I can be swayed in any direction, but that's what I think.
Would it take more time if you did train the trainers?
A little bit. In
As
that
far
case,
as
we
like,
would probably look at rolling the train the trainer out in January with the goal of them being ready to start in like March. It's just how we've done it in the past. But if we're doing regional things, I can look back and see how many regional trainings we did for the Fit Hate Crimes update with Julio. and see how that worked out with how many we had to do in order to adequately provide opportunity for mandatory training. And I can email that information to Sheriff Harlow to go out with anything else before the next meeting.
I also get just a little bit concerned if we let too many people get out with this training, that it's going to be presented differently each time, and some information get that this group in the training I can't even talk, sorry. The learning objectives may be different, or so we just need to be mindful of that that's something we can discuss more once we figure out exactly what the learning objectives are going to be. So
I'd like it if folks from this committee could, when you're reaching out to potential instructors, find out their availability, and, you know, are you thinking like 4 trainings for 4 different regional areas of the state? Are you thinking 6? You know, knowing you're going to record one of those, it would make sense if you could stay with consistent trainers so that you're delivering the same message throughout the state and having it be delivered, you know, sequentially throughout the regions that you feel are the most important to reach people in person.
well, I think once we figure out if we can get any guidance from trainings that have already occurring around these objectives, once we get those honed in, and then we can figure out who would be available to do that, then getting that availability and figuring that out will come along with it. But really, we need to see what kind of training is out there already, so that we're not creating it from scratch and go from there, unless people are thinking differently. But that's what I'm hearing from people. Just making it specific to Vermont. So our next meeting is June 12th. 1 o'clock. So if we do learn anything prior to that, whatever we get, I'll make sure that the group has enough time to send it out in enough time so everybody can review it prior to our meeting. If anybody has anything from now until then, please reach out to me.
And Jen, I just want to let you know that I will not be able to attend June 12th. My daughter's graduating from high school that afternoon, so I will be at graduation. So I will catch up with you guys for the next meeting.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, exciting. Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
Thank you so much.